Going back to that police memorial this spring, I was approached by the family of fallen officer Brian Pierce. Tammy and Brian Pierce asked me for my help in checking on the award payments afforded to families of first responders who die in the line of duty. As it turned out, the Pierce family, who had lost their son in August of 2021, 9 months before the ceremony where I met them, could not receive their payment. That's because the appropriation to the Court of Claims, the state agency responsible for processing such awards, was exhausted. This meant that no additional vouchers could even be sent to me at the Illinois Office of Controller until the legislature approved additional spending limits for the program. Fortunately, the legislature did increase the authorization by $4 million, up from the $5 million originally budgeted. Think about that. The legislature had appropriated $5 million for benefits to the families of fallen officers. That's a lot of money. But that's how many officers died in the line of duty last year, that they under budgeted by almost the exact same amount. It was a $4 million under budget. The fact of the matter is that it shouldn't have come to this. No family in Illinois should have to wait longer than it takes them to apply for those benefits to get them. I immediately knew I had to fix this from ever happening again. That is why I've asked State Representative Dave Vella and Senator Chris Belt to introduce legislation, House Bill 3388 and Senate Bill 217, that would allow these vouchers to come to my office so that I can pay them without any delay. It becomes what we call a continuing appropriation, so the legislature does not have to reconvene to appropriate it. We're also looking to double the time in which family members can file a claim from 1 year to 2 years. It is a simple bill, but no less extremely important for these families who've struggled enough with the loss of their loved ones. This legislation applies to not only police officers and first responders, but also members of the armed forces. And this legislation has bipartisan support and really should face no opposition. I thank every legislator who signed on so far, too many to name now, thankfully, and I hope every lawmaker will support it and consider signing on as a co-sponsor.
Good morning, I'm Debbie Weisman. I'm the president of Illinois Cops. I became a part of that chapter when my brother, Trooper Mark Tony, was killed in the line of duty in 2011. Illinois Cops is a nonprofit. We are made up of the families and coworkers, survivors of fallen officers. That is our mission. Our mission is to bring hope to those families. We have a critical incident memorial team that will respond within hours of a line of duty death, and we help plan the funeral to make sure the officer is honored and make sure the families are taken care of from that point on. We stay with the families from that day until whenever. We're there forever. We also assist the families and coworkers of making sure they get to the National Memorial in Washington, D.C. during National Police Week, and we get them to the Illinois Memorial Service to make sure that they are there, they're able to attend, and that financially, no family should not be able to honor their officer because they can't afford it, and we're their backup for that. If I could just take a moment, I'd like to read the names of the officers who will be honored this year, May 4th, in Springfield. Officer Nicholas Kozak, Forest Park Police Department, end of watch 11/27/2021. Officer James Feck, Chicago Police Department, end of watch 12/8/2021. Officer Jose Horta, Chicago Police Department, end of watch 12/23/2021. Officer Jeffrey De La Cruz, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, here in Chicago, end of watch 12/23/2021. Officer Joseph Tripoli, Chicago Police Department, end of watch January 3rd, 2022. Deputy Sheriff Michael Queenie, Will County Sheriff's Department, end of watch 1/8/2022. Officer Brian Shields, Aurora Police Department, end of watch January 11th, 2022. Deputy Sheriff Joseph Tinoco, Cook County Sheriff's Police, end of watch January 13th, 2022. Sergeant Kenneth Thurman, Aurora Police Department, end of watch January 19th, 2022. Deputy Sheriff Brian Norton, Ford County Sheriff's Department, end of watch February 5th, 2022. Officer Brian Sember, Ottawa Police Department, end of watch April 3rd, 2022. And Deputy Sheriff Nicholas Wiest, Knox County Sheriff's Department. End of watch, 4/29/2022. This is why we do what we do, to make sure these officers and their families are honored. And now, thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support. It has meant the world to our families. Know that people are out there supporting us. And I'd like to introduce House Assistant Majority Leader Natalie Manley.
Thank you, President Wiseman. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here to shed light on such an important issue. Many of us would not be here today if it were not for the essential work of our first responders. These dedicated public servants work tirelessly to maintain safety, security, and the well-being of our community. First responders put their lives on the line every day to protect our families. We must do everything we can to support their families when they no longer can do so. The changes we've proposed in the Line of Duty Compensation Act will help us do just that. No family in mourning should be rushed to file a claim to the benefits they're entitled to. We propose an increase to the amount of time families can file their claim under the Line of Duty Compensation Act so that the bereaved can mourn and take care of the finances on their own schedule. Similarly, no family in mourning should have to wait an undue amount of time to receive the payment they deserve. The changes we propose in the Line of Duty Compensation Act will ensure that future families of fallen first responders will not have to wait any additional amount of time to receive the benefits due to a lack of funding. We will make sure the families of these fallen heroes are able to remain financially secure during their most vulnerable time. This legislation symbolizes our ongoing commitment to the everyday heroes in our community and across Illinois. As an elected official and a resident of this community, grateful for the work of our first responders, I will use the full weight of my position to see this bill lands on the governor's desk. You always have our backs, and we should always have yours. I'd like to introduce State Representative Dagmara Avelar.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. State Representative Dagmara Avelar, welcome to the 85th District. And I have the pleasure of introducing somebody who, when I first was elected into office and we were talking about all of these, we wanted to have conversations with law enforcement and with first responders to talk about what do we need to do as elected officials to make sure that we are not just honoring those who have lost their life in the line of duty, but honor our first responders every single day. And today, what we're doing today, it's one of those things. But be certain that there's a lot more things coming to make sure that we are not just leading with words, but leading with action. So again, it is my honor to be here today and to introduce our Chief of Police for the Village of Romeoville, Chief Ken Kroll. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ken Kroll. I'm the chief here in Romeoville. It is an honor to be included amongst this gathering to support a very worthy initiative. I want to thank Comptroller Mendoza, thank you, and our leaders in Illinois, several of whom are here today to support first responders and the families of our first responders. During my career, I found that my family is every bit as affected by me being the police as I am. And since day one, it has been a team effort with my family. I can't imagine the devastation families feel when they lose their first responder. I'm honored to have this moment to express my appreciation. And I want to again thank the Comptroller and our Illinois elected officials that recognize the importance of our first responders and will be acting to help these families if and when they need it most. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Representative Harry Bent.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. This is such an important event to talk about the legislation that's going to help out so many families of fallen first responders. When we talk about law enforcement and firefighters and service professionals, a lot of times we don't talk about the family. The holidays away, the emergency call-ins, the events within their schools with their kids that they miss, so they can make sure that they're taking care of us. We need to make sure that we're taking care of their families as well if they make the ultimate sacrifice. And making sure that they're not wrapped up in red tape when they lose a loved one. They don't need more on their plate, and I want to make sure that that is taken care of in the Illinois General Assembly. So I'm happy to say that I signed on as a co-chief sponsor and want to make sure that this bill gets over the finish line. So I'll keep it short because there's so many good people to hear from. And I want to introduce the Chief Tracy Chapman from the Forest Preserve, Will County Forest Preserve Police Department.
Thank you, Representative Benton. Good morning. I am Tracy Chapman, Chief of Police for the Forest Preserve District of Will County, and I am representing the Police Chiefs Association of Will County as the current Vice President. First, I too would like to thank Comptroller Mendoza and all of the bill sponsors on behalf of the Police Chiefs Association of Will County. The association supports Senate Bill 217, which will provide continuous and additional support to the families that experience the devastating loss of a loved one who is a first responder or member of the armed forces. Simply put, more needs to be done for these families. Future families of these victims should not have to wait for these benefits due to the lack of funding. The monetary compensation the families receive will never be enough to replace their loved ones, but it can assist them during the terrible experience and lessen the financial burden as they grieve and try to begin the process of healing. There's no doubt that change needs to be done, and we support Senate Bill 217 and the beginning of that change. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Back to me. Thank you to all our wonderful speakers. And, you know, again, this all comes down to the fact that families of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice should never, ever have to worry about how they're going to put food on the table as they grieve the fact that they lost their loved one. I call on the legislature to pass this bill as quickly as possible. Let us honor fallen first responders and armed service members by limiting the suffering of the families that they leave behind. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here today. I know we have members of the press here, and I, along with I'm sure anybody here, would be happy to answer any questions. Are there any? Seeing none, let's get this thing done. All right? Okay, thank you for being here today, everyone. Thank you. All right, that's it.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.